1940. After 6 months of wartime standoff, Germany hurled the weight of her offensive westward. It was the second time in just a quarter of a century, but this time the Luftwaffe, Germany's mighty air force, was leading the way. Defending troops were rolled back by the German advance. Holland was first to fall, then came Belgium, but France would wait. Nazi generals saw the chance to annihilate the retreating British army. The fury of the invasion had caught the British forces off guard. By the 26th of May, 400,000 men were trapped at the port city of Dunkirk. The only escape was by sea, and on May the 30th, an endless armada converged off the French coast. Warships, barges, ferries, and fishing boats evacuated 340,000 soldiers under intense German bombardment. Winston Churchill later said that wars are not won by evacuations. But at Dunkirk, his country had been saved. The British ducked the German trap, and now the island nation stood alone against Hitler's dreams of conquest. As German commanders strolled through the wreckage of British defeat, all eyes turned to the chalk contours of Dover. But Adolf Hitler respected British culture and didn't wish to destroy her. He felt that German military prowess was enough to deter the beleaguered nation from further bloodshed. For Winston Churchill, peace with Germany was never an option. The stubborn leader dismissed German overtures, telling his countrymen to brace themselves for their finest hour. Along a 2,000-mile coastline, Britain was transformed into an island fortress. Anti-aircraft batteries sprang up like weeds. Road signs were removed to confuse German invaders. Hitler was baffled by Churchill's stubbornness, and on July the 16th, he gave up on diplomacy. Before invading Britain, the Royal Air Force needed to be destroyed. The task was put into the hands of the Luftwaffe's flamboyant leader, Hermann Göring. Göring was delighted by the challenge. The battle to come would be decided in the air, and when Britain fell, it was he who would receive the credit. Invigorated by German air dominance over Europe, Göring predicted the RAF would be crushed within weeks. The stage was set for the Battle of Britain. Back in England, the Royal Air Force braced for war. One of the RAF's most important weapons was this, the Rolls-Royce Merlin engine. The Merlin had a 12-cylinder inline design, which in 1940 supplied just over 1,000 horsepower. It would power the two major Battle of Britain fighters. The older of the two aircraft was the Hawker Hurricane. It was a single-seat fighter with 8 wing-mounted Browning machine guns. It first flew in 1935, and by 1940, it was the RAF's most numerous fighter. The other RAF fighter was the brainchild of aircraft builder R.J. Mitchell. It first flew in 1936, a year after the Hurricane. The new aircraft became known as the Spitfire, a name that will forever be associated with the Battle of Britain. But the key to Britain's defense was a new invention, radar. By 1939, a coastal chain of 20 radar stations warned of enemy aircraft approaching from the south and east. All radar contacts were passed on to Fighter Command headquarters, where the Women's Air Force Auxiliary would follow the action on large table maps. Though the Luftwaffe would choose where and when to attack, the RAF would always see them coming. Back in France, German pilots prepared for war. Victories over Europe filled them with confidence. They outnumbered their British opponents, but their job was more challenging. Royal Air Force pilots were defending their homeland. For them, stalemate meant victory. The Luftwaffe needed to win control of the air. For this task, Göring turned to his proven fighter, the Messerschmitt Bf 109. Most Luftwaffe fighter bases were concentrated around Calais, the shortest distance to England. By mid-July, German fighter pilots began testing their British counterparts. Groups of Bf-109s took off towards the English coast, hoping to lure the RAF into the air. As the Bf-109s crossed the channel, the British radar saw them coming. Within minutes, Spitfires were closing on the German pilots. Luftwaffe pilots perfected the art of aerial combat during the Spanish Civil War. Over the English Channel, their experience and efficiency was brought to bear against a less polished foe. By July the 20th, 50 RAF aircraft were destroyed. The loss rate was alarming, especially considering the brunt of the German air offensive was yet to come. Most of the fighting took place off the Dover coast, in a piece of sky which became known as Hellfire Corner. RAF fighters were in short supply, but the most precious commodity was experienced pilots. But the RAF had the advantage of fighting close to home. When a pilot bailed out over the channel, Royal Air Force motorboats were sent to pick them up. As the air war grew more intense, heroes emerged on both sides. One of them was Spitfire pilot Douglas Bader. Bader's contribution to the battle stemmed not from his own deadly skills, but through his ability to pass on his knowledge to less experienced pilots. One of them was a young Spitfire pilot, Johnny Johnson.
He was a great leader, Douglas. He had the qualities of leadership, all the qualities of leadership, which are given to very few. I like to think, that we inherited something from him. We'd learned something from him. We learned how to conduct ourselves in war. That's what we did.
On the other side of the channel was Adolf Galland. A veteran of the Spanish Civil War, Galland was a deadly and efficient hunter. But like Douglas Bader, he was also a teacher. Galland liked to instill confidence in young pilots by setting them up for their first kill. To do this, he would fly over the English Channel by himself. When a British fighter attacked, he turned for France. The retreating German plane was tempting bait. If the British pilot was foolish enough to fall for his trick, Galland would radio his young pilots waiting high above their base. As the Spitfire crossed the French coast, the trap was sprung. These decoy duck tactics proved costly to the RAF. Fighter Command Chief Hugh Dowding warned airmen not to fly beyond gliding range of home. To his group commanders, he stated, "I want live flyers, not dead heroes." German fighter pilots went to war with greater experience and discipline than the British. But young RAF pilots matured quickly under fire. By August, it had become clear that except in the turn, the Hurricane was poorly matched against the 109. Although sturdy and well-armed, the Hurricane's top speed of 325 miles an hour meant that it was 30 miles an hour slower than the German fighter. Camera gun footage shows a Bf-109 pilot's view as he closes in and attacks a Hurricane. While the Hurricane may have been slower and less maneuverable than the Spitfire, it was far more numerous. Hurricanes outnumbered Spitfires by almost 2 to 1. To best utilize its combined fighter force, the RAF decided to fly its Hurricanes against German bomber formations and let the Spitfires deal with the Bf-109s. But German bombers were yet to make